Hi, this is Corey again from Nightmare Playgrounds, and we're going to be teaching you how to do a fake wallpaper peel effect. Right here I'm just doing a quick plaster wall with some mold effect on it. I'm using a sponge. When you're sponging, it's important that you turn the sponge and get some varied effect, because if you do the sponge in one direction the entire place, you're actually going to notice a repeating pattern from it. This is my lovely assistant Angela from Deathworkz. She's going to be taking over the sponging for me while I throw in a few other colors of paints for her. If you notice on the bottom section of this board, there is a taped off portion, and there's a little triangle there that we are going to use later. If you don't like how much paint you put on the board or the effect that it's doing, go ahead and smear it around a bit, see what it does. You're probably not going to mess it up, and if anything, you'll take down that pigment a little bit and spread it out. Especially if you have it watered down enough, it'll make it a little bit translucent so that the other patterns can come up through it. It's just kind of a happy accident. You can play around with it. Don't be afraid to try new techniques, because you are going to happen across some that really work well for you. And you wouldn't have tried them if you'd just been trying to follow exactly what you're supposed to do every time. So as you can see, using these different colors of paint and the different textures will really help you break up that wall. It's not going to be this huge expanse of one color now. So it's going to be visually interesting, and it's also going to be a good way to keep the eyes moving across the wall instead of seeing this huge white expanse, or light gray as in the case is for this one. And you see you're hitting the edge around that tape. That's actually going to help us, because that's going to keep it from having this white line that's going to make it look really obvious of where we painted. The fabric that you see that's in front of you is actually called muslin. This stuff is the haunter's best friend, in my opinion. Hollywood and theater use this all the time. In theater, we use it to cover the gaps between the Hollywood flats, and it makes it look like it's one whole wall. What you do is you actually fray out the edges, and you pull the threads from one direction off the edge of it, and you fray it out so it's got these thin little fibers coming off of it. I usually do it about 1/4 to 1/2 inch. If you really want to be zealous, you can do it to 1 inch. It's not really necessary. But what it does is, when you put this fabric down, those small little fibers will help blend it into the paint and hold it. Here I am just carving a really quick and dirty pink foam stamper. So Lynette there helped paint in that purple wallpaper we're going to do. She's from Deathworkz also. So I'm just playing around with this little foam thingy. So we're going to take the tape up, and you got a really hard line there. And look, there's this big white spot of mold. Well, we don't want that, so we're going to take the paint and we're actually going to paint back into it. So there you have your muslin, and we're going to paint into the mold area. This also is glue. It doesn't look like it right now, but the wonderful thing about latex paint is it's sticky, and it will become the bottom portion of the glue for this. And see the way I push those feathered edges, and then you brush along the edge outward. So you're actually pushing the little feathering threads and painting in their direction so that they're not clumping up, and that will actually help them glue down and press them into the paint. Makes a really good adhesion, makes a really good surface. Super simple, very easy to do, but the effect is really nice. The other thing I like to do is I only paint the one side of the muslin, because when it flops over, it's actually going to have that still kind of a white pattern underneath, so it'll look like fabric. Here I am taking some gold paint, and I'm not doing this as exact as I should, but I want you to get the effect of it. So I throw down a couple of little golden skulls. If you want to do a really intense repeating pattern, I would suggest using a stencil. You can measure off where it's going to go. It'll be a lot easier on you, and you don't have to worry about the stamper not working so well. I think for this stamper I probably should have coated it in the latex and let it dry. That way it had that kind of resilient give to it, and so it's more like a rubber stamp. But for this effect I really liked what it did, because it not being perfect makes the wallpaper look a little bit worn down, like the gold embossing has been rubbed down over time. So here you have the finished product, and it looks pretty good. To stress the wallpaper a little bit, you can do some dry brushing or stippling, darken it up a little bit, go in with some sandpaper and sand off some of the stuff you don't like the skulls or repeating patterns, and you have a finished product. Thanks again to Deathworkz for helping out so much for prepping it for this class.